Okay, good morning. Good morning. New day, new mimer. We finished the last mimer. We're going to move on to a completely different topic. Okay. We are currently in the middle or the beginning of what's known as the 3 weeks. The 3 weeks. The 3 weeks is the 3-week period, hence the name, between the 17th of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. The 17th of Tammuz was the day that the walls of Jerusalem were breached. And Tisha B'Av is the date 3 weeks later when the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, was destroyed. Both temples, actually, same date, 400 years apart. So this time, that period that we're in, is not a very necessarily positive time. It's not a time with a positive connotation. It's historically one of tragedy and sadness. However, we have the rule, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, to serve Hashem with joy. And we have to implement and bring joy into our service of Hashem in every way possible. During the 3 weeks, there's restrictions on certain things. You're not supposed to take haircuts. You're not supposed to buy new clothing, and various other things, which kind of limits our joy. But we have to increase in joy in areas where we're allowed to increase in joy. And in fact, those areas that we're allowed to, we are encouraged to, when we're supposed to, we need to. Even the week of the 9 days, the first of Av to the 9th of Av, when the restrictions on things that cause joy are even more intense, and then the week of Tisha B'Av itself, and then followed by Tisha B'Av itself, it's a very strict fast day. It's a very heavy day. Even then, the Rebbe encouraged us to increase in joys in manners of joy which are permissible according to Jewish law. Now, the reason the temple was destroyed, now we can give political reasons and things like that, the Romans, Babylonians, etc. The sages tell us what the reality was. What was the real reason? What were the real reasons that the temple was destroyed? One of the main reasons is there was sinas chinam. Sinas chinam means baseless or senseless hatred between one Jew and the next. In fact, there's a story in the Gemara, Talmud, tractate of Gittin, which describes at length a story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, two individuals. And there was a particular person who loved one of them and he despised the other one. And he made a big party and he invited one of them, it was Kamsa, and he sent his servant to go fetch Kamsa and invite him. But he instead, by accident, invited Bar Kamsa because they almost had the same name. And he showed up and he was very upset that he came and he threw him out. And it was a whole long, crazy story, and it eventually led to the destruction of the temple. That was just one example, though. So sinas chinam, baseless hatred, is the root cause. It is the core of the problem. So the Rebbe has educated us multiple times, many times, that when we reverse the cause of the exile, that remedies and that heals our situation, and it brings redemption. So what is the opposite of baseless hatred? How do you cure baseless hatred? Not by increasing in love, not just by increasing love, but rather, even more so, senseless love, baseless love. To love a fellow Jew just because. Just because. That can be very difficult. I'm me, they're them, and sometimes we don't really match up. So we're going to be focusing on the mitzvah, the commandment of Ahavas Yisroel, loving a fellow Jew, to help us go in that direction. And it's very interesting that the fact that baseless love will bring redemption, will bring geula, will take us out of exile. It's just an interesting thing that Ahavas Yisroel, loving a fellow Jew, is a redemptive thing. It is a behavior of redemption. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be, the love will know no bounds. Okay, so the mimer that we're going to be learning is a famous mimer. Is a mimer of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, from his book, his sefer called Derech Mitzvasecha, which literally means the path of your mitzvahs. It's a words from the Tehillim. It's a very interesting book of Chassidus. Basically, what the Tzemach Tzedek does is that he goes through a number of mitzvahs in the Torah, and he explains them according to Chassidus. Very interesting. So, this mitzvah, as you're going to see, the big heading where I have the arrow pointing. You have a copy. First page. It's the Isur Sinas Yisroel Mitzvas Av Yisroel. This is the prohibition of hating another Jew, and the mitzvah, the commandment of loving another Jew. So it's both. I think the most simple thing to do, most straightforward thing to do, is just jump into it. Let's do it. Kedoshim. So the first, line number 1, I put page line numbers to make it easier to follow. Line number 1, Kedoshim in that parentheses. Kedoshim means holy, but Kedoshim in this case actually is referring to the name of a parsha, the Torah portion of Kedoshim. That these two mitzvahs are found in. Kedoshim, shaloi lisnoi lachaveiroi, not to hate one's fellow. Shenemar, as it says in the verse, leisisno es achicha bilvovecha, you shall not hate your brother in your heart. Vayikra Yotes Yudzayin, this is from Vayikra Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 17. And then it says, Reish Lamed Ches. What's Reish Lamed Ches? Reish Lamed Ches is 238. This is a reference to the number, which number mitzvah this is. The mitzvahs of the Torah, there's 613 mitzvahs, and there's discussions among the rabbinic authorities which mitzvahs are included in the 613, because the reality is there's actually more than 613 mitzvahs. But we know that there's a count of 613 particular mitzvahs. And Maimonides Rambam has a very famous criteria and a set of mitzvahs that's known in his book of the Sefer HaMitzvahs. There's also the Sefer HaChinuch, which literally means the book of education. He has a different count of what exactly the mitzvahs are, different criteria. And in his count, mitzvah number 238 is the mitzvah not to hate one's fellow Jew. And the other mitzvah is, going further, second line, Le'ehoiv kol adam Yisrael, to love every person of Israel, to love every single Jew. Shenemar, as it says in the very next verse, Shenemar v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, you might be familiar with these words. You shall love your brother, you shall love your fellow, like yourself. Vayikra Yotes Yud Ches is from Leviticus 19, verse 18. Reish Mem Gimel, 243. This is the 243rd mitzvah in the count. Okay. Now, very interestingly, the style of this particular book, of Derech Mitzvasech from the Tzemach Tzedek, usually is, he'll start by telling you the mitzvah, like what number it is, and what the actual, very simple, basic, what the mitzvah is. Then he'll give you a chunk of Kabbalah, of the mystical aspect of Torah, and tell you what it means according to that level. You read through those words and you're completely lost what on earth Tzemach Tzedek is saying, because it's Kabbalah. But then he explains it according to Chassidus, which makes it a little more comprehensible. In this particular mitzvah, he doesn't do that. He goes straight from the revealed part of the Torah, from the laws, from the basic concept, to the Chassidus. But we're not at the Chassidus yet. So right after the colon, the 2 dots, on line number 3, Yodua Maimer Hillel Hazaken, is known the statement of Hillel the elder. 2 famous schools within in the Talmud. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, the Academy of Hillel and the Academy of Shammai, and they were at odds on almost every single topic, many times. Famous arguments. Just to give the most famous one probably, where Beis Hillel says that on Hanukkah we should light the menorah. Night number 1, you light 1 candle. Night number 2, like 2 candles, and so on until the 8th night we light 8. Beis Shammai is of the opinion you start on the first night you light 8. Second night you light 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And they both have firm basis within Torah for what they're saying, of course. We follow the opinion of Beis Hillel. Fine. So there's a story. There's a story in the Gemara, in the tractate of Shabbos. A very interesting story. There's a fellow, not Jewish, who wants to convert. Or he had already converted. I'm not sure which one it was. But either he had already converted or he was interested in converting. So he came to Shammai, the head of the academy. And he said, teach me the entire Torah on 1 foot. So he didn't respond. He chased him out of the academy, it says, V'amas habinyan, with a measuring stick. He's trying to give off a message. There's depth to that. We're not getting to it now. He chased him out. Then he came to his counterpart, so to speak, who's actually, they're good friends, but he came to Hillel, and he said, teach me the Torah, the entire Torah on 1 foot. So he did. What did he tell him? Let's see it inside. Yadua Maimir Hillel Hazok in Lahager, it is known the statement of Hillel the elder to the convert, Shabbos Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, which is from the tractate of Shabbos, page 31, side 1. De aloch soni lechaveroch loy savid. When was Aramaic? What is hateful to you, don't do to your fellow. Teach him the whole Torah in 1 foot, and he responds, what is hateful to you, what you don't like, don't do to somebody else. Zehu kol Torah kula, and he continued, this, what I just said, what is hateful to you, don't do to others, this is the entire Torah. V'idach pirushahu chulu. And the rest of the Torah is commentary on this idea. Now, this needs to be analyzed and understood because it's not understood. As the Tzemach Tzedek goes further, on line number 5, Ube'emes einoi muvon kol kach. Truth is, this is not really so well understood. This makes sense. This idea that what is hateful to you, don't do to others, is the entire Torah, the rest is commentary. That is regarding the interpersonal mitzvahs, the social mitzvahs, so to speak, between one man and the next, between one person and the next. Yes, that makes sense. So, not to steal, not to cheat in business, to be kind and giving to others, to be charitable. All these mitzvahs, the premise, the basic core of them all is what is hateful to you, don't do to others. And the reverse is true. What you do enjoy, what you do like, do to others. That's actually going to be analyzed in part 2 of this mimer. Why does it say it in this backwards way? It should have said it in the positive. We'll get there. So yeah, the core, the base, the principle of all those mitzvahs is loving a fellow Jew. I understand that. But regarding the mitzvahs between man, woman, and Hashem, what on earth is the connection? What did Hillel say? Hillel said, what is hateful to you, don't do to others. This is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. The entire Torah? Really? Really? So there's a mitzvah for me to study Torah, which is a mitzvah between me and Hashem. The basic principle behind that is loving a fellow Jew. I have a mitzvah not to eat on Yom Kippur. That's between me and Hashem. The basic core, the basic premise of that, the foundation of that is loving a fellow Jew. I have a mitzvah to eat kosher. The foundation of that is loving a fellow Jew. What does this have to do with loving a fellow Jew? A person can go his whole life, in theory, without loving another Jew, live by himself, be a hermit, and do all these other mitzvahs between him and Hashem. To keep kosher, to fast on Yom Kippur, to keep Shabbos. What does it have to do with loving a fellow Jew? Ubifrat, especially Shebo Yisborech Chassid, that regarding Hashem, it is written in the verse in Eiv, in Job, Im sodakto matitin loy kayidua. If you are righteous, what are you giving him? If I'm being a nice person to you, I'm not, so to speak, giving Hashem anything. He's not gaining anything from this, so to speak. I'll give you another example. When I daven, when I pray, that's strictly between me and Hashem. The basic foundation of that is loving a fellow Jew. So to all the other questions, we'll get there. But to davening, the answer is yes. How? Why? We'll see. As the Tzemach Tzedek ends off over here on the paragraph, the end of line number 6, Gam noida, also it is known, mashakosov, what is written. What we say. Shenochain loymar koidem hatzfila hareini mekabel olai mitzvas aseh shelva ahavta l'reich kamecha. We say this before our prayers. It's in the Siddur, in the prayer book. It says, quote, it is proper, it is correct to say before prayer, behold, I take upon myself the positive commandment to love your fellow Jew as yourself. What on earth does that have to do with prayer? That's between me and another Jew. This is between me and Hashem. Why am I even... this is printed in the prayer book. I take upon myself the positive mitzvah to love a fellow Jew like myself. Why? Lefishu yesoid gadol ba'avodas Hashem. Because here the Tzemach Tzedek starts to give us an inkling of what's going on here. Because this, loving a fellow Jew, is a huge foundation in service of God. In serving Hashem, a huge foundation is to love a fellow Jew. Why? How? That's his question. Ulahavin inyana, to understand its concept. What is this thing of loving a fellow Jew? See you on, God willing, on Sunday.